Here is your full, cinematic, emotional 2,000-word YouTube-style story with both engagement requests included, written in long paragraphs. No dialogue format, no screenplay format, just smooth storytelling exactly as you requested. She just wanted food for her daughter. The manager mocked her. The CEO was secretly watching. The rain had already soaked through her thin shawl by the time she stepped into the warmth of the cafe, but that wasn't what made her hands shake. Her heart felt heavier than the dripping cloth clinging to her shoulders. She had walked miles with an empty stomach and an even emptier wallet, but the only thing she was thinking about was her daughter's face, pale, tired, hungry. She wasn't here for herself. She wasn't here for comfort. She just needed a meal for the little girl waiting at home. Yet the moment she entered, the manager's cold stare sliced through her hope, and the humiliation unfolded before she could speak. Behind her, unknown to her, the CEO, who rarely visited his own branches, sat quietly in the corner, observing everything with a seriousness that promised change. If you believe kindness still matters, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KHstories. Your support truly keeps stories like this alive. She had once lived a life where she didn't have to beg for anyone's mercy. There was a time when she had a husband who worked tirelessly, when she cooked warm meals every evening, when laughter filled the home and her greatest worry was making sure her daughter finished her homework. But everything changed in one night. The accident that stole her husband, the medical bills that drained their savings, and the job she lost shortly afterward when her grief swallowed her strength. She tried to stay strong for her daughter, tried to fake a smile each day, but life kept tightening its grip. After months of unpaid rent, she was forced into a single-room shelter on the outskirts. The little money she made from cleaning houses barely covered necessities. Some days she ate nothing at all so her daughter could at least have half a meal. Today was worse than the others. The families whose homes she normally cleaned had traveled for the holidays, and she was left without a day's pay. Her daughter had slept last night clutching her empty stomach, whispering that she was fine even though her voice trembled with hunger. That memory burned through her chest as she gathered the courage to enter the cafe, hoping she could buy at least a bowl of soup with the few coins she carried. She knew it wasn't enough, but sometimes, when a person is desperate, they cling to small chances like they're miracles waiting to happen. The manager approached her with the kind of expression that told her she didn't belong there. She tried to explain that she didn't have the full amount, that she only needed something small, anything for her daughter. Her voice trembled, her dignity already bruised, but the manager didn't want to hear her story. He mocked her appearance, told her she should try begging outside instead of pretending to be a customer, and that the cafe wasn't a charity. Each word hit harder than the last. The customers around her looked away, choosing ignorance over empathy, and she felt like the floor beneath her was disappearing. She tried not to cry, tried to hold herself together, but the shame was unbearable. What she didn't know was that the CEO, a man known everywhere for his professionalism but rarely for his presence, had been sitting silently with a cup of coffee, reviewing documents on his tablet. This was his branch, one he had built from scratch, and today he had come unannounced to observe operations. His eyes lifted the moment the manager raised his voice. He watched the scene from beginning to end, watched the woman tremble in humiliation, watched the customers turn into statues, and watched his manager, someone he trusted, treat a struggling mother like she was invisible. It sparked something in him that hadn't awakened in years, something deeper than corporate leadership. It was a reminder of his own past, of the days when his mother struggled with the world while raising him alone. The woman stepped back from the counter, ready to leave, ready to accept that even this tiny hope was gone. But her legs felt weak, and everything inside her felt painfully heavy. She whispered an apology, even though she had done nothing wrong and had almost reached the door when she heard footsteps approaching her from behind. It wasn't the manager. It was the CEO, though she didn't recognize him. He gently tapped her arm and asked her to wait for a moment. His voice was calm, almost too gentle for a man of power, and she couldn't understand why someone like him would approach her at all. He walked past her and confronted the manager in a tone that silenced the entire cafe. The humiliation the woman had endured was now directed, rightfully, toward the manager. The CEO didn't believe in cruelty, especially toward those struggling. He reminded his staff loudly that respect was not optional, kindness was not a favor, and the company was built on values, not arrogance. The manager's face drained of color as he realized who he had been mocking in front of. Within minutes, he was suspended on the spot. CEO returned to the woman, offering her a seat and a hot meal. Not just one, but several dishes carefully prepared for her to take home. She tried to refuse, embarrassed and overwhelmed, but he insisted gently. When the food arrived, the aroma alone made tears spill down her cheeks. She hadn't tasted real food in days. He asked about her life, and as she slowly shared her story, the CEO felt something stir inside him, an urge not just to feed her for the day, but to rewrite her tomorrow. She wasn't lazy or irresponsible. She was a survivor, a mother fighting quietly against the storm life had thrown at her. He requested her address and promised to visit the next day, but she didn't believe it. Promises rarely meant anything to her anymore. Yet the following morning he arrived exactly as he said, carrying groceries, warm clothes for her daughter, and an envelope containing enough money to keep her afloat for several months. But more importantly, he offered her a stable job at the cafe's main office, cleaning, organizing, nothing complicated but steady, reliable, and dignified. Her eyes widened with disbelief. No one had helped her like this before. She accepted with trembling hands, unable to form the words she wanted to say. Her life began to change slowly but beautifully. With every passing week, she grew stronger, more secure, and more hopeful. She was no longer treated as a burden. She had colleagues who respected her,